To replace the clock spring, the first thing we're going to do is remove the steering wheel, which I've done already here. Now we need to get access to the actual clock spring. So there are 3 screws that hold the steering column cover on. They are 1, 2, and 3 in here. It's just a Phillips head screw, and so we'll pull those out, and then this will just pop off. Now this bottom one here is kind of stuck because it's attached to this panel here. So what I did is I removed the screw, which was down here, and then now we can just kind of grab onto it and gently separate off the panel there. So we don't need to disconnect the left side over here. It's okay. We just need to get this thing out of the way so that we can jiggle this guy out of the way so it's not blocking everything. There's 4 wire connections that we need to disconnect in order to remove the clock spring. The first one is up here on the top, and then there's one right here. I've already loosened it, and then there's 2 right here, which I've loosened already also. So just push those out. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now to get to the clock spring, we have to remove this entire assembly. There's 2 screws. There's 1, 2, and there's a plastic tab that you press down on here, and then the whole thing comes off. So you can see here, there's this little plastic thing that you push down, and then that will release it from the steering column. All right, now that we've gotten this off the steering column, I just kind of want to go over it real quickly. This whole piece is available online. You can buy it as one whole piece. It's about $300. I chose to just replace the clock spring. My switches are fine. I don't really need the whole thing. So this was like, I don't know, $30, $40 on eBay, no, on Amazon, I think it was. I'll post a link to it in the description. Now this is missing a part. It's right here. So when I took this old steering wheel off, this part was stuck to it. It came flying off. And what ended up happening is this this ribbon tape right there. You can see where my finger is pointing. This was connected here. And so it ended up tearing, and that's why I need to replace this. Now, here's a new unit. A couple things that are really, really important is that when it comes, it's got this little plastic thing here. Don't remove this. This is important. This is to make sure that this part and this part stay in alignment. If you take this off prematurely and you're fiddling with the steering wheel before you're ready to put the steering wheel on, you could knock it out of alignment, and then you'll break this as soon as you take a hard turn. So if you max out the turn on the turning radius, this piece will actually break because it runs out of space, I guess you could say. So make sure you leave the alignment piece on until you're ready to put the steering wheel back on the car. So what I need to do now is I need to figure out how to remove this old piece. You can see the back here is going to mount to here. So this is going to go like this. No, it's going to go like this. So you can see where the ports, where the matching ports are. What I need to do now is I need to remove this from this piece and then stick this new piece onto here. So it looks like there's 3 screws. There's 1, 2, and 3 right here, which attach this guy to the overall assembly. So I'm going to remove that right now. Once you got the screws removed, you can just lift this cover off and hold on to this. We'll need it later. Next, we're going to remove the switches from this assembly. So you just need to push down on these little plastic tabs here on the side, and then the whole thing just pops off. Super easy. And then set them aside. So the same thing on this side. There's just a plastic tab right there, another one right here. You squeeze those, and this whole thing just pops off. So set those aside. And now we have the old clock spring is now separated from everything. I think that this was serviced before because there's all kinds of funky grease in here. So I think maybe this was replaced actually once before, and maybe that's why there's a bunch of grease in here and it was really sticky and gross, and there was hair in here. That's not mine, it's blonde. So that was probably from the old technician who serviced this before. So I'm gonna set this aside. Next, we've got the new clock spring. I'm just gonna take the switches and reinstall them just like they were before. So this one is my lights. So this one goes over here and it just pops in. You're just gonna push it into place like that until it clicks. Don't want that hair, that's gross. Other switch, Same thing, we're just going to make sure it's facing the right direction. We're going to slide it in until it pops into place. Cool. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to put the cover back on. On the back of the clock spring, there's this alignment thing and that one right there, and we're going to make sure that we line up this part of the cover and this hole right here next to the screw hole with these tabs. So I'm just going to line them up, and you'll know when you're in the right spot because they'll just snap in, and then it'll be nice and snug, and all we have to do now is just put the screws in. Now that we've got this reassembled, we're going to put it back on the steering column. So I'm just going to slide it in. I'm going to press down the little plastic tab up here to guide it in, and now it should be good to go. So let's go and screw it back on. Alright, we're back. I had to take a quick break because I forgot I had a meeting. So anyway, where did I leave off? We got the clock spring back in. We've got all 4 of the connectors reconnected. Something that really important is that the part comes with this little plastic guard thing here. And the purpose of this guard thing is to make sure that this stays in alignment with the unit here. If you take it off, this will spin freely, and you don't want that. And the reason for that is this has a preset distance that it can turn. If you put it in and it's already rotated a certain direction, it's going to break the clock spring, because as soon as you go to full lockout on the turn, it might go too far and it'll break the unit. So you'll end up having to replace it again. So make sure that you don't take off this plastic retaining clip until you're absolutely sure that you're ready to install the wheel again. So this keeps this thing from rotating. A couple things. We've got these resistors are meant to bypass the airbag switch. So that's what these little guys are for. They just plug in like this into there. And then also NRG gives you this handy dandy wire that plugs into this connector right there, and the purpose of this is to connect the horn. Now I will do another video shortly showing how to use these jumpers to wire the cruise control, because I will be reinstalling that. I do want cruise control. This is a vehicle I drive on the road as well as off the road, so it would be nice to have cruise control on long trips. So I've got the horn situated here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to reinstall my short hub. I'm going to gently remove this piece here, so that will be free now to rotate. Feed all of this wire through the hole in there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to line up this notch that's right here onto that plastic nub there. So just gently make sure it's lined up. Okay. Put some light in there so I can see what's going on. Cool. Now I can push it all the way in. Pull these guys through. Make sure it touches. It's all the way to the back. Awesome. And then this just bolts up again with that 19mm bolt. It's always a good idea to hand thread things before you throw any force at it, in case you happen to accidentally cross thread it. I did that by mistake with one of these holes here, and I ended up having to get a tap and die kit to fix the ruined thread. So hand tighten everything before you apply any force. I'm going to use my impact to tighten it up. Cool, so that's in there. Sweet. Alright, next we're going to take this hub adapter, and if you notice here on this quick release on the back side here, there's some wires that come out. This is for the horn. You have this ground piece here. I'm going to connect the ground to this, and it's just going to be wedged in between the adapter and the quick release, and this wire is going to plug in to this right here. So just connect that like this, and then all this stuff is going to be stuffed inside here. This is going to go with the NRG label facing up. We just want to line up the holes. We're going to hand torque these screws in and be careful not to cross thread anything, because that would be a bad day. Alright, once you've got them started, go ahead and use the Allen wrench that NRG supplies and gently start to tighten them down loosely. Don't tighten them all the way down just yet. Want to make sure that they're evenly torqued down. Alright, once they're all touching, it's pretty snug on there. I'm going to go in and give it 1/4 turn to tighten it down, and then alternate. And steering wheel, horn works, and we're good to go. Now that we know that everything works, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put the plastic pieces back on. So this guy goes underneath. Just like that. This guy goes up here. Go, that just snaps together. Then we put the screws back in. Alright, some lessons learned that I picked up while putting in this steering hub and the quick release. And I got a couple questions on the last video, like, why would you want a quick release on an Xterra? And I go, well, why not? It's just fun. Honestly, I just wanted something to play around with. I'm going to be getting a Miata and tracking it, and maybe a couple other project cars, and so I figured, why not play around with this. This will actually fit a 350Z if I end up getting a 350Z, so that's kind of cool. I know how to do it now. So anyways, couple lessons learned. When you take the old steering wheel off, don't manhandle it. Don't like pull it too hard. You might break stuff like I did. I broke the Clockspring, and that's why we have this video to begin with. But I'm not super bummed about it, because I did end up learning a lot about the steering system and all the controls that are connected to it. So I like breaking things, I like failing so that I can learn, and so that was a good experience for me. Going back into putting everything together, also be careful when you are screwing these in with the supplied Allen wrench screws. These are really, really soft, and you can cross thread them if you force them, so don't do that. When I pulled this thing off, I actually had to drill out one of the screws and use a tap and die kit to fix the threading, because I ended up cross threading. So just be gentle with these when you put them on. Hand torque them down until everything's nice and even, and then you can use the Allen wrench to tighten them down. You don't have to manhandle them. It seems to be a theme today. Don't manhandle things. Just be careful. And anyway, that's pretty much it for today. Stay tuned. Oh, also, I color matched the screws. They used to be silver. The ones that came with the steering wheel were silver. Now they're red, so that's kind of fun. Stay tuned. I got some other parts that are going to be going on the truck. I got some new stuff for the battery. It's a new radiator that's going in. I was going to just try to clean up the headlights, but I found some cool stuff on Amazon that I thought I'd try, so I'm going to be replacing the headlights. A few other things, getting ready for my road trip in July. So stay tuned. If you like this, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more of this sort of thing, consider subscribing. I'll be doing a lot of videos and how-tos as I am learning how to do all this myself. Again, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm figuring it out as I go. But if you find this helpful, I hope to see you guys soon. If you have any questions, post them in the comments below, and I'll see you next time.